Eventually, she had to leave the celebration behind, travel to Toronto, reset mentally, recover physically, and compete at another major WTA event. There was barely enough time to process what she had accomplished. No long victory lap, no extended break, just another city, another draw, another opponent, another challenge. And somehow, Alex kept moving. In her Toronto debut, she faced Alicia Parks, a dangerous American with a kind of power that can take the racket out of an opponent's hands. Eala came through that challenge in 3 sets, 6-1, 4-6, 6-2, advancing into the third round of the National Bank Open. The victory also made her the first Filipino player, male or female, to win a main draw match at the tournament. Think about that for a moment. Another tournament, another piece of Philippine tennis history. And another reason Filipino fans are starting to understand that what they are watching may be bigger than one magical week. The challenge against Parks also revealed something important about Eala's development. She did not simply cruise through without resistance. After controlling the opening set, she was pushed back. Parks raised her level. The second set slipped away. Suddenly, Eala had to respond emotionally as much as tactically. That is where young players are often tested the most. When everything is going well, confidence comes naturally. When momentum changes, when an opponent begins landing bigger shots, when the crowd feels the tension and one mistake threatens to become 3, that is when composure matters. Eala regrouped. She stayed in the fight. She began creating opportunities again. And she finished the match strongly. The WTA reported that Eala created 14 breakpoint opportunities against Parks and converted 5 of them, an indication of how consistently she was applying pressure on the American service games. Eala later described her approach as taking the deciding set point by point and trying to capitalize whenever opportunities appeared. That mentality becomes even more important against Caty McNally, because McNally is not arriving at this match hoping to play the role of supporting character in Alex Eala's story. She has her own momentum, her own confidence, and her own reason to believe she can make a serious run in Toronto. McNally earned this meeting by producing one of the most impressive performances of the tournament so far, defeating Wimbledon champion Linda Noskova in straight sets. What made the result even more striking was the way McNally recovered after falling far behind in the opening set. She fought back, survived set points, took control of the match, and eventually won 12 of the final 14 games. According to the WTA, it was the second top 10 victory of McNally's career. So anyone expecting Alex to simply walk onto the court and continue winning without resistance should think again. This is dangerous, and that is exactly what makes it exciting. For Eala, the tactical battle could begin with the return of serve. One of her biggest strengths when she is confident is her ability to make opponents feel uncomfortable immediately after the serve. She does not always need a spectacular return winner. Sometimes the goal is simply to get the ball deep, take away time, and force the server to play the next shot under pressure. Against McNally, that first exchange could become crucial. If Alex can consistently put returns back into difficult positions, she may be able to prevent McNally from establishing comfortable attacking patterns. But McNally brings variety. She is an accomplished doubles player, which usually means she is comfortable moving forward, handling volleys, changing court position and recognizing when an opponent has been pushed into a defensive position. That presents a very different challenge from simply trading ground strokes from behind the baseline. Alex may need to stay disciplined with her passing shots. She may need to keep the ball low when McNally approaches. And perhaps most importantly, she cannot allow herself to become predictable. That is where Eala's left-handed game can create interesting possibilities. A left-handed player naturally produces different serving and rally patterns from what most opponents see week after week. When Eala places the serve effectively and follows it with an aggressive first ground stroke, she can open angles that force opponents to defend wider than they would like. But placement matters more than pure speed. Against a player who reads the court well, repeatedly hitting into the same patterns can become dangerous. Alex will need variation. Body serves, wide serves, pressure into the corners. Then, when McNally begins anticipating one direction, change it. The same principle applies from the baseline. Eala looks most dangerous when she is not simply reacting. When her feet are organized and she steps inside the court, her ground strokes become weapons because she can redirect the ball quickly and take time away from the opponent. The danger comes when she is pushed too far behind the baseline. If McNally can take control early in rallies and force Alex to defend repeatedly, the match could become physically and mentally demanding. And remember what Alex has already been through. She has been playing a lot of tennis. She has experienced the emotional high of winning a title in Washington, traveled to another tournament, played another 3-set singles battle and has also competed in doubles in Toronto. That makes energy management part of the story. A rising champion is not measured only by what she can produce on her best day. The tour asks something harder. Can you recover? Can you travel? Can you wake up with tired legs and still make good decisions? Can you handle the attention? Can you win when everyone suddenly knows your name? Those are the questions Alex Eala is beginning to answer. And that is why Filipino supporters are watching so closely. For years, tennis fans in the Philippines dreamed about seeing a player from their country regularly competing on major stages. Now there are Filipino flags appearing in international stadiums. There are families adjusting their schedules around Alex's matches. There are supporters in Manila refreshing scores. There are overseas Filipino workers following from different time zones. There are young players picking up rackets and imagining something that once felt almost impossible. That emotional connection was visible in Toronto. After defeating Parks, Eala spoke about feeling at home because of the support she received inside the stadium, describing Toronto's multicultural atmosphere and thanking the crowd that came to watch her. That matters. Because when Eala walks onto the court now, she is technically competing alone. But emotionally, it rarely feels that way anymore. Thousands of voices are traveling with her. Every fist pump gets shared. Every difficult service game creates nervous silence thousands of miles away. Every victory suddenly becomes a celebration of something larger. Pinoy pride is no longer appearing only after historic breakthroughs. It is becoming part of the weekly rhythm of the WTA Tour. But there is another side to that pride. Expectation. When Alex was the underdog against established names, she could swing freely because most of the pressure belonged to the opponent. Now the situation is changing. People know what she can do. Players know what she can do. Coaches will study her patterns. Opponents will search for weaknesses. And after winning a WTA title, Eala no longer enters every match as the unknown young Filipina trying to shock somebody. Sometimes she will be the player others want to upset. That psychological transition may become one of the biggest challenges of her career. And McNally is exactly the kind of opponent who can test it. She has already shown in Toronto that falling behind does not necessarily shake her belief. Her comeback against Noskova demonstrated patience and resilience. If Alex gets an early advantage, she cannot assume the match is finished. She must keep pressing, keep constructing points, keep respecting the danger across the net, because momentum in tennis can disappear unbelievably fast. One loose service game, one missed opportunity at break point, one brilliant return from the opponent. Suddenly everything feels different. This is why Alex's emotional control may matter as much as her forehand. She does not need to win every spectacular point. She does not need to force the highlight shot. Sometimes championship-level tennis is much less glamorous. Make the first serve. Return one more ball. Choose the higher percentage target. Accept a lost point. Move on. Then do it again. And again. And again. That discipline could determine whether this extraordinary North American stretch continues. But whatever happens against Caty McNally, the bigger picture should not be forgotten. Alex Eala is moving into a different phase of her career. This is no longer only about potential. Potential is what people talk about before the results arrive. Now there are results. There is a WTA title. There are victories on important stages. There is history being made for Philippine tennis. And there is growing evidence that Eala can compete through difficult momentum swings instead of needing everything to go perfectly. The next step is consistency. Not one tournament. Not one upset. Not one viral moment. Consistency. The players who become serious contenders learn how to follow an emotional victory with another professional performance. They learn how to survive matches when their best tennis disappears for 20 minutes. They learn how to win ugly. They learn how to recover after losing. And eventually, they stop looking like visitors at the top level. They look like they belong there. That is the opportunity in front of Alex Eala. Not simply to defeat Caty McNally, but to demonstrate that the excitement surrounding her is becoming something more durable. A career, a presence, a player the WTA field must prepare for. And for young Filipino athletes watching from home, that might be the most powerful part of this entire journey. Alex does not have to tell them that a Filipino tennis player can stand on these courts. They can see it. She does not have to tell them that someone from the Philippines can create history in international tennis. They are watching it happen. And perhaps years from now, another young Filipino will walk onto a professional court and say that she started believing because she watched Alex Eala compete against players like Parks, McNally, and the biggest names in the sport. That is how sporting legacies begin. Quietly at first. One match, one breakthrough, one flag in the crowd. Then suddenly, an entire generation is watching. So when Eala faces Caty McNally in Toronto, remember what is actually at stake. This is not a guaranteed victory. McNally deserves enormous respect, especially after the resilience she displayed against the reigning Wimbledon champion. This is not a finished story. It is precisely the opposite. It is another difficult chapter waiting to be written. And maybe that is why Filipino fans are feeling the excitement so strongly. Because right now, whenever Eala steps onto a tennis court,